Download the MSNBC app today.
This week, North Carolina Republican Governor Pat McCrory signed what is being seen by some as a controversial new law that restricts some LGBT protections in his state. The new law now prevents any local government from enacting non-discrimination ordinances based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Now, the bill became law in a whirlwind fashion after the Republican-controlled legislature called a special one-day session on Wednesday. That happened in response to an anti-discrimination ordinance that was passed in the city of Charlotte. That city ordinance provided protections based on sexual orientation, including allowing transgendered individuals to use a bathroom of their choosing. Now, opponents of Charlotte's measure argued it was unsafe because it could allow men to enter women's restrooms. Now, we saw a similar argument play out in Houston last year when opponents struck down a so-called bathroom bill, saying it would have allowed sexual predators into women's facilities. North Carolina's controversial bill, known as HB 2, passed easily on Wednesday with unanimous support from Republicans. 11 Democrats in the State House crossed party lines and voted for it as well. In the Senate, the 11 Democrats in the state Senate walked out of the chamber in protest of the bill, which led to a 32-0 vote. The bill was debated, passed, and on the governor's desk in less than 9 hours. But the new law goes much further than just striking down the Charlotte provision on bathrooms. It also bans individuals from using public restrooms that do not correspond with the gender stated on their birth certificate. It blocks cities from allowing transgender individuals to use public bathrooms for the sex they identify with, and it declares that state law override all local ordinances concerning wages, employment, and public accommodations, keeping Charlotte or any other city from adding any new anti-discrimination protections, period. Civil rights groups say they are exploring some legal options, and many companies who do business in the state, like American Airlines, Apple, Bank of America, PayPal, Lowe's, Dow Chemical, are denouncing this new law. And it's not just businesses. The NBA says its 2017 All-Star Game, scheduled to be played in Charlotte, home of the Hornets, owned by Michael Jordan, could also be impacted. And it could cost the state future NCAA events. The college sports governing body says it is, quote, monitoring current events there. You might remember the NCAA was one of the first organizations to speak out against what was deemed a religious freedom law in Indiana last year. That law allowed businesses to refuse service to LGBT individuals on religious grounds. Under intense pressure from inside and outside his state, Indiana's Governor Mike Pence signed a revision to make clear the law could not be used to discriminate based on sexual orientation or gender identity. It's not just North Carolina and Indiana where this fight is playing out. By the way, Arizona Governor Jan Brewer vetoed a similar law in her state in 2014. And a Tennessee State House committee struck one down just yesterday. Georgia is also considering a religious freedom measure that critics say would allow for the same type of discrimination as they claim this North Carolina law allows. Now, the bill was passed by the legislature and awaits Georgia Governor Nathan Deal's veto or signature. Corporations like Disney and Marvel have threatened to boycott Georgia if the governor signs that bill. Other companies, by the way, like Dell, Time Warner, Sony Pictures, and MSNBC's parent company Comcast have urged the governor to veto the bill. Joining me now from Charlotte, North Carolina, on the North Carolina bill, and I want to get everything confused here. Don't want people to think we're conflating. One of the primary co-sponsors of HB 2, State Representative Dan Bishop. Representative Bishop, thanks for coming on, sir.
Glad to be with you, Chuck.
So, it is my understanding, reading everything about this bill, reading your press release, other press releases about it, if you read just the press about it, the bill was about a specific ordinance in Charlotte, the bathroom issue. But
Correct.
This bill went farther than that. Why not just target the Charlotte law? Why did you go further than just rescinding this particular ordinance in Charlotte?
It's funny how misimpressions get started, Chuck. Under our state constitution, we can't pass a local act on matters of business regulation. We have to pass statewide laws. So what we did was restore common sense, given that Charlotte had allowed the protections of safety and privacy for women and girls in bathrooms and locker rooms to be subverted. We restored that and restored common sense, and we did it on a statewide basis. Your lead said that we terminated authority for cities to do this. in North Carolina, cities have to have authority delegated to them to be able to act on in particular areas. There is no delegation of authority. So we clarified the fact that they do not have the authority that they were exercising in Charlotte's case. And in doing it statewide, one other thing we had to fix, they took an old ordinance, a 1968 ordinance that had various protections. It was passed under similar circumstances, had never been controversial because it echoed federal law. And they changed it in a way to make bathroom privacy sacrificed, and we took all the protections in that ordinance that had pre-existed, and we put them in state law. So we fixed it very well. I was very proud of the legislation.
Do you believe your bill, though, prevents discrimination against gays and lesbians in North Carolina?
It has all.
You don't feel like you've rescinded protections?
Absolutely not. In fact, we worked very hard. The reason the bill is such a piece of architecture is we worked very hard to preserve every piece of protection that North Carolina law or Charlotte law provided before the city council went off the cliff and opened up bathrooms to women's bathrooms to men.
Let me ask you this: what should be the line on somebody who's transgendered? Let's take Caitlyn Jenner. Which bathroom would she legally be allowed to use in North Carolina?
Well, you know, that's another thing in your lead that wasn't actually correct. Our law only governs the way bathrooms will be conducted in public buildings and in school buildings. And in those circumstances, it says that there'll be male and female bathrooms, and they'll go there. It also allows unisex single occupancy facilities, and it has a number of exceptions if someone needs to be assisting someone. Private businesses, that's another thing that in terms of the notion that the state law undermine discrimination protections, it's absurd. The private businesses now are free, if they have a policy where they choose to have multiple occupancy unisex bathrooms, they can do that. We aren't preventing anyone from taking that course.
Well, let me just go back to the initial question, and I'll put it in state buildings. Which restroom is Caitlyn Jenner legally allowed to use?
Well, I don't know all the details about Caitlyn Jenner, but if under what governs is the birth certificate sex. But if someone under North Carolina's pre-existing law, if someone has sex reassignment surgery, they're entitled to have their birth certificate changed, and they'd be able to go into the opposite bathroom. So
now, how do you control for this? How do you check? I mean, I guess you know, how do you patrol for that? I mean, how do you check to see if somebody's following the law?
Yeah, the question is one of custom. In other words, what Charlotte said to businesses throughout Charlotte was, and I've lived in Charlotte for 50 years, and what they said is if you have a business in Charlotte, you may not have separate sex bathrooms. You must allow people to go in bathrooms. And what they're seeking to do is undermine a custom that people have a sense of privacy in private facilities. And then some people are very concerned about even the safety of people once you kind of sunder all of that. So that's the issue. It was just common sense. And Charlotte, as I say, went off the cliff. So we fixed that and restored common sense.
Even when I use a men's bathroom with other men, I expect privacy from other men. I mean, isn't privacy an expectation of using the restroom? I guess the idea that you have to pass a law to force privacy here?
It is amazing it was necessary to pass a law, and it wouldn't have been necessary to pass any law if Charlotte hadn't done what they did.
But I guess why pass a law if there wasn't a perceived problem?
Well,
had you had anybody complaining? Had there been any incidents? I'm just asking.
Yes, we had thousands and thousands of complaints. One of the leading television stations in the state did a poll that indicated 66%. I never see a 6% answer. Wanted us either to override this ordinance or subject it to a public referendum. There was a tremendous outcry. And before they did it, I cautioned them. I said, you're going to produce, this is very divisive. You're going to produce a turmoil in Charlotte, and that's the last thing we need. And that's exactly what happened.
What do you say to the NCAA? What do you say to the NBA that are threatening some boycotts?
Well, look, Charlotte is on the top 5 list in the country, every top 5 list of site locations, of places to do business, of economic growth. It would be, if a business were to attack the people of North Carolina, particularly where 2/3 of them favor a position and take the opposite position that you have to have men go in women's bathrooms in order to get our business, then I think they'd be hurting themselves. I think that would be a shame, and they'd be, but you know, North Carolina has great things ahead. We've laid the foundation for tremendous business growth, and we're experiencing that. Charlotte is the leading business city in the country, in a state that is at the leading business in the country. I think that would be ill-advised. It would be an unorthodox marketing policy for any business to take the position they're going to attack North Carolinians. Let's put it that way.
There are some gay and lesbian advocates who believe this bathroom issue is being used as a way to roll back protections against gay and lesbians. This is not this transgender bathroom issue is being used as a way to roll back protections that were there for gays and lesbians. What do you say to that?
Those who would dishonestly attack this law, the problem for them is they want to carry the argument that men should go into bathrooms and locker rooms with girls and women. That's an impossible burden for them to bear, so they're just dishonest about it. But they can point to no protection that's been rolled back. The protections in Charlotte's ordinance, we've preserved them. In fact, they're broader than federal law protections in public accommodations against discrimination. And we have expanded those statewide. There is nothing that we've cut back, nothing at all.
All right. State Representative Dan Bishop, appreciate you coming on and sharing your views. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chuck.
You got it. Well, Donald Trump's support is not doing, some say, tanking with women. We'll look at what it means for a potential general election matchup against Hillary Clinton. That's up ahead.